Hello, everyone. I am Brady Bridges, and I'm the broker and owner of Reside Real Estate here in Fort Worth, Texas. I want to welcome you to another episode of Real Talk with Reside Real Estate. We are a top producing team here in Fort Worth, Texas, and we want this podcast to be a resource for anyone looking to learn more about real estate and the great city of Fort Worth, Texas.
Hello, and this is another episode of Real Talk with Reside Real Estate. Today, I'm joined by Kate Peterson. She is a TCU grad and currently serves on Highland Homes leadership team as a division sales manager for their communities from North Fort Worth to Waxahachie. She's sold on-site in various communities, including Walsh and Morningstar, and has a passion for helping families design and build their American dream. She loves all things real estate, new construction, old historic homes, and everything in between. Kate, thanks for coming on.
Of course. Thanks so much for having me.
So, Kate, that's kind of a brief intro about yourself.
Yeah.
So, kind of tell people a little bit more about you and how you got into Highland Homes and home building and real estate.
Of course. Absolutely. So I grew up in Northern California.
Okay.
I moved to Fort Worth to attend TCU. I instantly fell in love with Fort Worth and just knew, okay, this is home, right? I knew I would stay, which is common, right? So when I was a sophomore in college, I thought, hey, I want some sort of internship, weekend job, just something to kind of explore what life after graduation might look like. At TCU, I studied economics and finance, thought maybe I'd go to law school. It was really kind of open-ended. And I started working. I actually went on Frog Jobs, TCU's, Frog page. The first thing I saw was a sales assistant at Highland Homes, which essentially means someone that supports the main salesperson on the weekends. So you're answering phones, you're giving tours of homes or of the neighborhood amenities. You're really doing anything, right? An extra set of hands. And I immediately fell in love with the idea that you could meet a family, show them the product, the neighborhood, and walk with them through the whole build process, right? So build process somewhere between 7 to 9 months. And really by the end, it felt like you had a new set of friends, So I did that for about 3 years. When I was in college, worked in various different communities in Fort Worth, North Fort Worth, all for Highland. And I was so impressed by the fact that every buyer that walked in the door had a good experience. Every agent we met was happy. There was no problems. And the problems that popped up, which they do, it's construction, right? We solved them so quickly and so well. And so I thought, okay, that's 100% what I want to do. And so I moved into a full-time assistant position after college, did that for about 3 years, and then was promoted to a sales counselor. So really
kind of the progression, if you want to get into that role, is go through the assistant.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And truly at a company like Highland, you mentioned you've worked with Ginger. She's incredible.
Yeah.
The bulk of the sales counselors have been at the company for 20 years. We really don't look at a candidate for a sales counselor role with less than maybe 5 to 8 years of experience. And so it kind of was an interesting path because I just kept learning and learning and learning. And so many of those sales counselors really poured into me and taught me just so much that eventually I was able to do it on my own, which was incredible. And in that process, realized that I might like the management side of things a little bit more. I started serving as a mentor to people on our team and recognized, hey, instead of doing it myself, I'm actually getting more fulfillment from helping other people do it. And so now I've been on the management side for about 7 or 8 months now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's really great. So kind of tell people a little bit more in depth about Highland Homes specifically.
Of course. So Highland was started by a brother-sister team, Jeannie Ann Brock and Rod Sanders, back in 1985.
Mm-hmm.
Jeannie Ann worked for a big publicly traded company as an on-site salesperson, and she really felt like she could do it better, right? She felt like there were agents that were continually selling her houses that maybe weren't being treated well by the builder. And she felt like there were buyers that the builder would make decisions and she would have to deliver the message, even though she knew it wasn't the right thing to do. Right. And so she called her brother Rod. He was an attorney in New York. The story goes that he had $40,000 in his 401k. They cashed it out and they started a home building business out of the trunk of the car. All in. They were committed, very committed. I think they sold 14 houses the first month in a community out in Rowlett.
Okay.
So they're from southern Oklahoma, but have lived in Dallas forever.
Okay.
And so really the company was built on the idea of treating employees the right way, treating buyers the right way, treating realtors the right way. And it is so incredible, the culture that they've created over the years. Just knowing the autonomy that the team has and really always doing the right thing in every situation. We say we operate in the gray. There's no black and white. There's no blanket policy. It's what's the situation, what's the right thing to do. And so we have grown. We build in about 50 communities across DFW. We also build in Houston, maybe 20, 25 communities, and then several in Austin and San Antonio as well. So our goal is not to be the biggest builder by any means, but it is to be the best builder in Texas.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did they decide? So they started in this market.
Correct.
How did they decide to just branch out and scale? Have you had those conversations?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think we recognized that the Houston market was really booming. This was about 15 years ago, lots of new construction. And a lot of the partners that we build with in our DFW communities were also building in Houston. So we kept hearing, this is a really great market. This is a similar market to operate in. And we
good natural fits.
Good natural fits, exactly. And so we really just sent a bulk of our Dallas team down to Houston. And that, I think, was really powerful because it made the market and our brand there feel the same as it does here. It wasn't new folks, new faces. It was the same people doing the same thing, just in a different place. And so that was really, really successful very quickly.
So, I told you before we got on that we work with a number of people that are moving from out of state or out of the area coming here. I feel like Fort Worth, and I know you said you work specifically at the West Side, but just DFW in general, we have such an opportunity because inventory right now just across the board is so low.
Correct.
And we have builders, Highland and some others. We actually have space and you guys are continuing to build. So specifically on the Fort Worth side, what communities are you guys building in, and kind of walk through the progression of how long it takes if somebody comes out there to contract, how long it would take to get their house complete.
Of course. So on the Fort Worth side, I'll kind of start up north and then move south. So we build in Harvest and Pecan Square.
That's a really cool area.
Incredible community.
It's just up there.
It's up there.
It's up there.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. It is up there. But it really feels, those are both Hillwood neighborhoods, and they've done just such a wonderful job. We build in Wildflower Ranch, which is right by Texas Motor Speedway. Great community. We build in Wellington, North Fort Worth. We have a new phase up and coming there in the next few months as well. Walsh, of course, will be in Walsh forever. We have a new phase of townhomes that should deliver sometime this summer. And then another section of 50s and 60s, so more your traditional single family later this year. We're closing out in Morningstar. So maybe 6 or 7 opportunities left. That's been a wonderful community, and sad to see it come to an end. Tabolo Park, of course, which I know you've sold in, and a lot of your team as well, which is wonderful. Incredible location, really incredible product, and a really great price point for new construction, in Fort Worth, so close to town. And then we also, one of our biggest, sub-markets right now that's growing is that 287 corridor down south. So we're in M3 Ranch in Mansfield. We just opened a neighborhood called Bridgewater in Midlothian. Same developer as M3 Ranch, very similar style and feel and builders. That'll be really nice. And then we're down in Waxahachie in a neighborhood called Dove Hollow. Incredible product. And of course, really, really great price point. So really nice.
And then you're telling me about that new community y'all are moving into?
Yes. So we have a new neighborhood that we're so excited about called Caris. We're about to begin pre-selling in the next couple weeks. And it is located in Crowley, right in between 35 and Chisholm Trail. So really incredible highway access, any direction you would need to go. And the beautiful thing about that is price point. So we're starting, probably in the 370s is where it'll come in, which is incredible for new construction, especially,
I think it gives so many, with the rates rising, it gives people opportunity to get back into new construction.
Correct.
Affordability when the interest rates went up 2 points changes a lot.
It does. And that's actually I've had so many agents share this with me, that the incentives that lenders are able to offer, especially when you are going new. So we've been paying anywhere from, $15,000 is the current incentive. It used to be $20,000 when rates first went up, right? And so we could buy down a rate, maybe 1.5 points, and that made it a little bit more doable, right? So that affordability factor, new construction can definitely help.
So I mean, this may not be something you can answer, but how are y'all finding the areas you're going to build in? Yeah. Are y'all being approached by these developers buying the land, or do y'all have your specific criteria of the areas you want to be in? Because obviously you want to keep your price point where it's at,
of course,
but you also want to make sure it's a community that fits the products you're building. So how do y'all decide where you're going to build?
Absolutely. So we're so fortunate to have had really wonderful relationships with some of the best developers, right? We do a lot with Hillwood. We do a lot with Hanover. We do quite a bit with Hines. RPG has been incredible to work with. So when these developers are looking at land positions, they'll often approach us and say, hey, does this really meet the criteria of something that you guys would be interested in? And those partnerships are so important because a lot of times their criteria is similar to our criteria. Really what we're looking for is a good school district. You will rarely find Highland in a neighborhood without a good school district. An on-site elementary school is so important. A big amenity package, right? We want to build communities, right? So we want there to be a pool in the neighborhood. We want there to be walking trails. We want there to be parks. And we want them to be well done, because when the neighborhood is well done and the amenities are well done, it helps the value of the homes.
I think that's so important now because, obviously both you live by TCU, I do too. The lot sizes nowadays are just not as big as they used to be,
Correct.
And now we're building more houses. So you have to have the amenities for people because they don't have the room like you did back when people weren't thinking about lot size and production building and growing out these communities, master plan communities back then. So I think it's so important to have that stuff.
It's so important. And the families that we build for, that is usually the top of their list, right? But Highland is always in, A++ communities. And that's really a lot to say. That's really the developers that we work with.
So are you part of those decisions now in your role?
I am. So it's been a really incredible learning curve, really looking at land positions, having developers approach us and say, hey, here is something that we're looking at, or here is a new phase of a deal, and really evaluating what that looks like to us.
I think that's really cool because you've gotten to learn. You're not only getting like in your role now, you got to learn the whole sales process. You've seen construction, and now you're actually learning the back end, like commercial development. You're getting a very wide breadth of knowledge.
Correct.
Current role.
Yes, absolutely. Everything behind the scenes. It's been so interesting to see a neighborhood go from nothing, just a concept, an idea, just dirt, have us buy in, and then actually have families build and close and move in and see what the neighborhood looks like. So it's been really rewarding.
So let's go into that. Someone's wanting to build.
Yeah.
So either they come out or an agent brings them out there.
Of course.
And so talk about, obviously I know, but just for someone listening, kind of walk through that process of what it looks like when somebody first walks into one of your model homes and what their experience is going to be.
Of course. So our sales team is extremely experienced. And I would say they are people who want to help and want to serve. They are not your typical salespeople, right? So the experience in the model is always going to be really relaxed. They're going to ask a lot of questions. Share with me what you're looking for. Share with me some of the problems you're having now where you live that you're trying to solve. Mm-hmm. Share with me what you've seen. What have you liked? What have you not liked? They're really going to try to get to know you, right? So it's not, here's a flyer, here's what I have, here's the pricing. That is so not our style. So the initial visit is typically just intended to get to know each other. And let's say there is some pathway forward, whether that's usually one of three options. So the first option would be an inventory home, somebody who wants something sooner rather than later. The typical build time from start to finish is about 9 months.
Okay.
Production times really are coming down. During the pandemic, of course, the supply chain gave us a lot of trouble. And so
we'll get into that. I'm curious.
Yeah, we can deep dive that for sure. But we're thrilled the production times are coming down. And we really do try to time our inventory where, a lot of people like to move over the summer, right? Especially people with kids right before school starts. That can be huge. So you can purchase inventory. Sometimes you can still make selections based on what's been installed, what hasn't been installed, the availability, etc. So that's kind of option number one. About half of our business is inventory. The other half is going to be build from scratch. So if you build from scratch, that's truly that 9-month process. And you choose, your floor plan, you choose all the structural options. So maybe you want a bigger shower and you want no bathtub. Maybe you want a medium-sized shower and some extra storage. Maybe you want a larger kitchen. Maybe you want a smaller kitchen. Maybe you want a study. Maybe you want a fifth bedroom. All the options you can customize. And really what's so nice about those structural options is, one, you can usually see them built, right? So you can see what you're going to buy before you build it yourself. Sure. That is so valuable. And the other component I think that's so important with new construction is the transparency in pricing. You can sit down in your first or second visit and go, these are all the things that I want. What does this cost? And that price is totally locked in. So if material costs rise, if they fall, the price is the price that you contracted at.
And I think just from doing it multiple times, a lot of people think it's going to be way, way more. Like when they see the base price model and they're like, well, when I start picking all this, they think it's going to be astronomically more
Correct.
than what it is. So they're afraid when they're going through doing those pricing.
Yes.
And you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I tell them, like, put everything that you want.
Yes.
Just go ahead and include everything, then we can back out.
Correct.
It makes it a whole lot easier to do it that way than having to reverse and add stuff back in.
Yes. That is 100% the best way to approach it. And it's also so important. I have this conversation with agents so often where the base is going to vary from builder to builder to builder.
Sure.
Right? So if you're shopping for a car, let's say, you would ask, right? Like, what's included? Mm-hmm. What's this package? What does this look like? And I think so often people think, base builder or base grade builder house, and they don't recognize that the bases are different. So for us, someone might upgrade 20,000, maybe 30,000 if they're really going for it. But just the base package in itself is really nice, So our base prices are usually a little bit higher, right, than the competition, but it reflects what you're getting.
Yeah, you're going to have more included than you typically would at some of the other builders, right?
Correct.
So like what would be a good piece of advice you'd have for someone going into that very first meeting if they have intention of wanting to build? What is something they should really think about before they even walk into a model home? Great
question. The first thing I would say is call your agent, right, and have those conversations, what you're looking for, if they need to or plan to sell their existing home, what that looks like. We can talk about contingencies too. We're very contingency friendly. We understand that's a part of the process. But in terms of the actual build process, our website does a really, really good job. You can go and you can actually build any floor plan that you want. You can build it, you can print it off, you can bring it in and say, this is what I want.
It blows me away in the model, like with Ginger, how fast she can work those things.
Of course. And I also, from a more just practical perspective, I also encourage people, build the house that is going to serve you well in 5 years. Mm-hmm. I have people so often, they'll say, oh, I don't know if I should spend, $4,000 on this extra bathroom. And then in 2 years, of course, we've stayed in touch and they're calling me going, oh my gosh, I have 3 kids now. I really wish that we would have done that. That $4,000 was nothing. We thought it was a lot, but it's nothing. So build the house that's going to serve you over the long term.
So one of the questions I have here, and you and I briefly touched on this, the term production builder versus a custom home builder.
Yep.
So kind of describe what a production builder is now. And as we chatted off, the idea of people building a true custom home, that's really not something you see in the price points you guys are operating in anymore. That's, usually over $1.5 million, I would say, is probably the custom home build price point, which they do some of that out in Walsh, and then areas around there is custom home building, but kind of describe what a production builder is and the benefits of what it provides, because I think it's so overwhelming for people going into these meetings where they really don't have to make that many decisions. So if you can kind of just touch on that a little bit.
Of course. I love that question. So I always say that in the world of production building, Highland is as close to the custom line as we can be without crossing it, right? And I think the benefit of that is all of our options, all of our floor plans are prototyped, are walked by tons and tons of architects, our entire team, really to make sure that before it even hits the field, before, a salesperson or realtor or buyer would see it, all of the, potential hurdles are worked out.
Yeah.
So we say our houses are extremely livable, meaning they just feel how they're supposed to feel. And we think about things like furniture placement. I can't tell you how many times I've walked other builders' new construction and I go, well, this is great. Your furniture lays out here, but you have no walkway, right? And you can't really see that when the house is empty, right? If you're a buyer, maybe you're not super experienced in this process. So they're just so well thought through. That's the first thing. The second thing I'll say is knowing your pricing, right? I have so many friends who have built custom homes, even recently, right? And really just the variation in cost. Of course, there's a base budget for things, but knowing,
I just think it can get out of control quickly.
Very quickly. Yes.
So it's like, oh, we can do this. This is only cost another $5,000.
Correct.
This only costs another $3,000, and then by the time you do it, you spend $200,000.
Correct.
Adding those things in.
Yes. The last piece that I will add that I think is so important, and so something Highland does so well, is we say that the relationship begins when the buyer closes, which is the opposite of what you hear so often. And what that means is we service all of our own warranty in-house. So if there is a warranty concern, it's taken care of by us forever, right? So different. Most most custom builders are giving you a 1-2-10 that's required by the state. And they're saying, call this 1-800 warranty phone number if you have any problems. And they wipe their hands and they're done. And so that's just the nature of the beast, right? That's not a dig on them by any means. That's just how the business works, right? They did their part and now someone else does the next part. And so for us, we do the full process. We're really with them the whole time.
So you touched on a warranty. What does y'all's warranty look like?
Of course. So 1 year wall to wall. So that would be anything. 2 year plumbing and electrical. So any system in the house, and then 10-year structural and foundation.
Okay.
So very similar to your typical 1-2-10. The difference is we take care of it ourselves. It's not outsourced.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
So obviously y'all develop these plans, technology comes along. How are y'all keeping up with, the smart homes are a huge deal now. So how do y'all keep up with all the trending changes in technology, and then also just styles, right? Just style changes all the time. If you go look out in Walsh and Tavola, like it's all white houses. There's no, like the traditional style, it kind of goes back and forth. So how do y'all keep up with that? Do y'all have design teams, or how do y'all do that?
Yeah. Great question. So in a variety of ways. The first, we partner with a company called IBB Design, Interiors by Beth. They're up in Frisco, and they have been our interior design partner and really design trend partner since the 80s, since the beginning. So they're the ones who decorate all of our models. They help us select, things that are upcoming trends, right? They might say, hey, we're seeing a lot of this. Something recently that, they suggested was, we're calling them Zoom rooms. So maybe someone doesn't need a full office in their house. Maybe they need a little cubby with a nice background where they can hop on Zoom. So things like that, we're seeing a lot of, especially in our higher end product, a lot of like prep kitchens, ways to design them where they don't take up tons of space, but they still, kind of fit the need. So I would say they are who we rely on for that information. In practice, in the field, what we see is buyers watching HGTV, watching, whatever design show or home renovation show. And they really are the ones driving that, right? Because they have so much say in what's going in their house in terms of colors, designs, etc. They're the ones really that are saying, hey, we want, everybody wants a white house, or everybody wants, black hardware, or whatever that looks like. Those are, I would say, the biggest components of design. For technology, it's something that our team is super aware of. We do have a smart home package that comes standard in everything we build. And that's really all the basics, right? And we also have, in those electrical meetings, buyers can go as far or as light as they want,
It's all about how much money you want to spend, right?
Exactly. That's the whole thing. And that's really where I say we kind of bridge that custom where you really can do quite a bit, but most people don't go quite that far.
I feel like when people make the decision to go with a builder like Highland or, a similar type builder, they're learning from that builder's mistakes.
Yes.
Like,
so true.
They've already gone through the trials. They know the plans that work. They know what they like, and you're not. Custom home building, just a remodel. I'm going through a remodel. You're trying to do yourself with just a contractor and stuff. It's a nightmare. So having people that have done it multiple times, know how to do it right in an efficient manner. Because, if you go to a true custom build, it could take 2 years sometimes.
Of course.
So one of the things I think people have a really big misconception about on a new construction home is I think they have to have a whole lot of money up front to get going. So with Highland, kind of what does it look, you're contracting a house, how much money do you need up front to actually go in and buy one of these homes?
Of course.
Or build.
Yeah. this is, I would say, the biggest misconception, right? Just in the buyer community. So if you purchase an inventory home or a build job, so either way, whatever you buy that's new with Highland, the earnest money at the time of contract is 3%.
Okay.
Right? So that 3%. Now, let's say that you have a home you're going to sell, right? You say, hey, I want to build this house on this lot, but I have a home that I need to sell in order to be able to use, the proceeds to buy this next house. So what we do, and this is where the partnership comes in with the agent, right? We really look at, okay, what's the market like where your house is? What condition is your house in? Let's look at a CMA. And this is something that we do together, right? We want to make sure that our sales team is partnering with the agent to put the buyer in the best possible spot, right? So that is so important. And we typically give families through stage 6, which what that means is sheetrock stage. Sheetrock, cabinets are in, countertops are in. At that point, we're able to say, hey, do y'all have a contract on your house? It doesn't have to be closed, but we do want you to have a contract on your house at that point. And what we're finding is most people, especially in this market where things are selling really well, most people are able to maybe do a 30, 45-day lease back and then move into their new house.
Sure.
So that's working really well. Now let's pretend that the situation occurs where we get to that stage, the house is on the market for 60 days. Maybe things aren't going well. Maybe the market has shifted where they are, or maybe they aren't able to get what they needed to for that house. They've had low offers, whatever that looks like. That earnest money that the buyer gave at the time of contract is 100% refundable under that contingency. So it's so valuable because
that's not common for every single builder.
It's not common. It's extremely uncommon, actually. And I think what's so interesting is a true
contingency.
Exactly. Yep. And I mean, 95% of the time they work out. Mm-hmm. So it really is just an insurance policy for that one situation where your money is.
And I'm sure, you'll have some freedom to work around that, if you need to.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, in terms of the refund?
No. In terms of if it's not sold by the time you need it.
Yes.
It's not like I think that's another thing. People get so worried about I'm going to lose my money.
Yes.
Hard and fast stop.
No. It's something that we, communicate with every week. How many showings have we had? What are we doing in terms of pricing? What is the market like? When we're asking these questions, right? So it really is a partnership to make sure that we get the family in the house that they want to be in.
So I asked you this earlier. A lot of people also have the conception that they think they're going to get a discount. Why should they be working with an agent? And do they get a better price if they do not have an agent?
This is my favorite question. My absolute favorite question. So the price is the same with or without an agent. I can speak, I knew that when I was selling. I said that to every single person that asked, but I can validate that now that I'm on the management side and I'm actually looking at numbers or looking at offers and seeing what that looks like. When we're evaluating, we don't know if there's an agent or not. So the price is the same truly with or without. The number one reason that people should use an agent is because y'all have been through the process a million times and y'all can provide information, insight. You can ask questions. Hey, I know you think you want that blue kitchen cabinet, but is that really what you want in 5 years? Is that the right move? So people, y'all bring just a different level of expertise. And I also think too, if I was going to build a house and I do this, I've been doing this for a living for 10 years now. I would still want an agent as part of the process. Why would you go through something that is historically it's the biggest investment that most people make. And it can be an emotional process. It can be a little bit stressful at times. Why would you not want two experts, the salesperson and the realtor, there to guide you?
Well, and I think it's important too, on the flip side, as an agent, when I'm going out with people and talking to say, if I do not get a good buy from the sales rep, I'll tell them, because I feel like if they're not communicating clearly about the questions you have, it's going to be a nightmare going through the process.
Yeah.
So I think it's same thing on the reverse side. You don't want to go into contract with a builder that you don't feel good about that rep that's sitting there in the office building it out for you.
Well, and it is so crazy to me because I ask myself, I've had buyers say, I talked to XYZ builder and they said I would get a better price without an agent. And what I say to them is, if that builder is trying to cut out your representation before you even sign the contract, how are they going to treat you in the process? It's just clear as day,
And that's definitely not true. They don't. Maybe like a small builder might do that, but I don't think there's any builder
Correct.
On any production level size that their prices adjust.
They don't.
And they're not good. right now, as you know, the past few years with COVID, prices went up so much. And I think one of the things that's really nice about what builders are doing, they're offering the lender incentive packages. So the prices are still not going up, but they're offering ways to get people in these homes through different routes to keep the pricing the same for the people that have already bought in their neighborhood.
Correct.
So you're not bringing down values.
Correct.
And you're still allowing the neighborhood to grow out and finish, because nobody wants to be sitting there with a bunch of empty lots in their neighborhood.
No, not at all.
With nails in their tire from construction.
Yeah.
I always laugh. That's one of the questions I ask every sales rep. Like, how many times do you change your tires out here?
Yeah, a lot, let me tell you. It's a constant problem.
So when do you feel like, because maybe a new home's not the best fit for everybody. So you may not, when would you maybe tell somebody that they might consider pre-owned versus going through new construction?
Such a great question. The times that, I'll speak for myself personally, right? I absolutely love living near TCU. I love that I can walk to a football game. I love that I'm just right across the street from, all the shops, all the restaurants, everything that I use and enjoy on a daily basis.
It's your bubble.
It's my bubble. It is. But what I'll say...
They make fun of me because I've got like a little bitty bubble around TCU.
Yeah. And it's great and it's wonderful. But what I would say is the appreciation that people see in new neighborhoods is so high. And percentage wise is typically a little bit more than what I'll see in something that's already established, right? Because you go out, maybe Walsh, for example, is a perfect example. I sold in Walsh when it very, very first opened. And yeah, you were 15 minutes, 20 minutes from the bubble, right? But now there's more and more out there and there's more and more coming. And so those home prices, of course, have just skyrocketed. I also would say there is sometimes a misconception, I hear this all the time. An agent will call me and go, hey, I have a buyer. They want to be no more than 500, let's say, right? And this is what they need. And I go, okay, well, what have you guys been looking at? They, say these pre-owns. Okay, cool. Well, when you actually do, I have this super cool spreadsheet. When you actually do the comparison between a new home with new home energy bills, no maintenance costs of a warranty, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
True cost of ownership.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
It's on a $500,000 house, it's probably $80,000 over 5 years. So a $580,000 new house is actually the same thing as a $500,000 pre-owned in a lot of cases. So I always encourage people, both are great options, but just make sure that the comparison really is real,
So one of the things that I think a lot of people are really worried about the upgrade process.
Yeah.
So base model, we talked about this, I kind of bounced around, but so say when people do contract and they're going in,
mm-hmm.
how do y'all account for what people are maybe going to spend at the design center when they're making these upgrades, and what are they responsible for coming out of pocket, if anything, at the time when they make these decisions?
Great question. So all of our models are decorated and finished to almost the highest level,
mm-hmm.
right? We see that, we know that. So what the sales counselor will do, if you have a buyer that wants to make sure they know the true cost of the house, right? I'm sure Ginger, she's such a pro at this.
I know, but I want other people to know.
Yeah. So she will sit down with you and she will go, any of our sales team, they will go room by room by room, and they'll say, do you want, wood floor here? Do you want vinyl here? Do you want tile here? Do you want carpet here? And they will give you a full quote they have pricing to everything. So that's something else that's really different about Highland. And this is a part of the experience is we don't ship you off to a design center and say that person over there, they'll give you pricing. They'll have all the upgrade information. They'll help you design your house. They're helping you choose your colors, and they are the designers. But all the pricing will always come from your sales counselor. So if you're curious, I really want this kitchen. Here's a picture I found on Pinterest. Can we do this? The salesperson will go, absolutely. Okay, let's plug this in. Let's plug this in. Let's plug this in. Here's the cost. And they're not necessarily, the buyer doesn't need to commit to those things.
So is it just kind of like a allocated budget?
Correct.
Okay.
All the way down, sometimes to the line item. So maybe you find floors in a model and you go, oh my God, these are beautiful. I love them. They're a level 5. It's the highest level. She'll go ahead and give you the per cost room as part of your contract for that. Maybe you go to the design center and you find something that's a level 4. She'll give you the credit back, right? So we really can get mean, when I sold on site, I would say people, they're after design, they might be within a $2,000 range up or down based on their choices, but they knew exactly what they were getting before they even went.
So explain the importance of why you need to build that stuff in on your sales contract versus going low and then going to the design center and adding upwards.
Yeah. So I think what's really important, especially home building is expensive, right? And there is a balance between the size of home that you build and the finish out of the home that you build. And we really try to help make that perfect match, right? So sometimes a family will sit down with me and go, I want this, 3,000 square foot home and I want this level of finish out. And it'll be $30,000 or $40,000 more than where they're comfortable, right? And we'll go, what if we go down to 2,800 square feet? Do we really need this, whatever it is? And that way we can have this level of finish out. What do you think? Right? So we're able to give all that information before they even contract.
Well, I think like for us, when we're going through that, just like this last contract we just went on, I was telling them like kids' bathrooms upstairs. You don't need to have like your bathroom, make it nice. It's yours, but like you don't need to deck out every single thing. Like the rooms that you're going to be living in every day, especially if it's 2-story, like make the downstairs where people are going to be really nice, but maybe kids upstairs carpet, keep it more basic.
Totally. That is such great advice. Yes.
Because it can add up so quick.
Absolutely.
And it's fun. It's like Legos. You're just building out all this stuff, and then the final bill comes. So kind of shifting gears, I ask everybody this when they come in: what is the number one piece of advice you would have for people looking to buy right now, whether it's building with you guys or just buying with the current market where it's at? What would you say?
Yeah, I absolutely love this question. I think that the Texas market is so strong. I think the Fort Worth market in particular is so strong. I think that people need to focus on what is happening in their local market, whether that's here or elsewhere. I tell people, especially buyers, and in my own life, the media and the news is reflective of maybe the whole country, but it's not reflective of our market. And so for me personally, it's true. It's so true. And people don't necessarily understand just how special what we have in Fort Worth is and how people do want to be here. Companies want to be here. People want to be here. And I think, I can speak for myself. I buy real estate. I invest in real estate, student housing, all near TCU. And we are constantly looking to buy, more so now, I would say, even in the past few years. So this higher interest rates at 6%, that's not a high interest rate by any means historically, no. Right? And what is happening, I think, there is such a lack of inventory, and the bulk of new construction builders, especially the big publicly traded guys that do absorb a lot of the new homes, they've really scaled back. They've really de-risked. And we, Highland, we have done the opposite. We've said, okay, there's no pre-owns on the market, right? Extremely limited. The big box builders are scaling back. This is the perfect opportunity to scale up and to have the inventory.
I think that's so important, because if you look at the trends of what happened through COVID, it's because all the builders have pulled back. And then they've ramped back. They ramped way back up.
Correct.
It went into all those lottery types. It was a very bad situation for a lot of people trying to buy a house. Like, it wasn't the kind of experience you really want to have. It's like, we have to take whatever we can get because it's 55 offers on every single house.
Yes.
Obviously, affordability, I wish was a little better, but I like the fact that people have a chance to breathe right now.
Yeah.
And it can be a fun experience.
Of course. Yeah. The experience is enjoyable. And in terms of home values, in this market, they're doing nothing but going up.
Yeah. I talked to a lady from the Star Telegram earlier this week, and we were talking about this, and I was telling her the national media housing market news makes everything like doom and gloom. But if you come here, it's still rocking and rolling.
Right.
And everybody that's come here, just Fort Worth is a special place. And I think it's just going to continue to grow. So we're really fortunate to we have great builders like you guys, but we also have a lot of local people. A lot of people are reinvesting in this area to continue to make it great.
Yeah.
So last question I ask everybody is, what do you love about living in Fort Worth, or Fort Worth just in general?
Oh my gosh. I know this is such a cliche answer, but it's so true. We have everything you could ever need in a big city, in a small town. Everybody it's an exaggeration, but everybody knows everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Like I go to the grocery store and I see a friend. It's just, it feels so homey, but yet not. I grew up in a really small town where everybody knew everybody. But we had no amenities. Like we didn't have good shopping. We didn't have good dining. Having Dickies, having TCU, being able to, we really have it all in such a small place. And I also think that people who live here, which is essentially what you just said, right? People who live here care about this community, and are investing in this community and are doing things to propel it in the right direction. And so it really is just the best place to live.
It's funny because you said you're from California, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in Odessa, everybody goes off to school and hardly any people come back. Here, people who live in Fort Worth, like those kids, they typically will either stay at TCU.
Correct.
They never move.
Yep.
I always thought that was so weird until you live here. Like, I get it.
Totally get it. Yeah, absolutely. The best.
So Kate, thank you so much for coming in. If someone had any other questions or wanted to reach out to you, how could they get a hold of you?
Sure, absolutely. I would say, social media probably is the best way. My Instagram is Fort Worth Kate. And then all my information is on the Highland website as well.
Great. Any last tips that you want to provide?
No, but thank you so much for having me. This has been so much
absolutely.
fun.
This was another episode of Real Talk with Reside Real Estate. If we can be a resource to you in any way, please reach out. Thank you.